So one of the things that happened to me about 5 years ago now, when COVID hit, um, we were running the business for a few years. We was doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden the world shut down. We also got hit by LinkedIn limitations. So not many people know this because not everyone's on LinkedIn like we are, but like in that kind of way where we're using it for business development at the time. There's only a handful of us now. There's so many, but at the time, you could send thousands of connection requests and they went down to 500. So it was decimated. Not only did the world shut down, but our reach out mechanism shut down. So what we did is we opened up another channel. We opened up email and we started sending out emails to increase the limits. Then a few years later, in 2023, we hired a sales team because we wanted to reach out more because it was the messages was getting more and more harder to get in front of people and say stuff to. So by the end of it, we were burnt out, stressed, frustrated, and at loss. So I thought there must be a better way. There must be a better way. There can't be. It can't be we're the only ones facing this, um, and there must be a way to solve for this. So that's what you do in business: is you look at a problem and you know that there's an opportunity in a problem, and that kind of gives you the ray of hope in the problem, because otherwise, if you don't have that optimism, then you tend not to last long in entrepreneurship. I feel, but maybe I'm wrong. Um, so what we discovered, or what I came to the conclusion of, is I was like, okay, if we've got these mechanisms and we're able to push out a message and they are year by year being constrained and restricted, and it's not just us, paid advertising goes through the same motion, the SEO goes through the same motion. Right now you've got something called zero click traffic, which is that ChatGPT and all of the other AI tools eat up all of the traffic that used to come from your blog posts and stuff like that. So again, transitions and shifts in spaces happen. And one thing that I wanted to do was build something that was solidified, that would weather the storm. No matter the technology, I was always looking for the foundational underlying principles that governed our ability to sell, market, and grow businesses. And I read loads of books. One of the best books I came across was The Ultimate Sales Machine. And it enlightened me at the time because it talked about education. It talked about a company that instead of looking at trying to sell people, it just went, if we educate our customers hard enough, we're going to be able to get to a point where they are ready to make the right decision and they will know we're the right decision. So I went through that thought process, and then I came across the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is something I got taught in school. But essentially, what it is you've got the above food and shelter, you've got social, status, and you've got growth. So the growth being the insights. I think that was the easiest one to understand for me. It was like, yeah, if we help people get to a higher place in life, a higher level in life, then naturally that's great. So growth, I understood, like being your best self, being your best self. That can come from spiritual aspects, can come from relationship, it can come from monetarily, like a commission and wealth and generation like that. There's what I recently was reading was Russell Brunson's Traffic Secrets, and he talks about the three core reasons why people buy. It's either relationships, wealth, or health. But the Maslow's hierarchy of need talks about exactly that, what humans need. And above food and shelter is social status and growth. So I wanted to build a compounding asset because I thought if we're all the time going out and starting afresh from scratch, then every year we have to start again. Um, Unless we have absolute killers on the team and all of that great stuff. So you can build a team and grow that way. But I was like, how do you build a business so that it builds and creates an infrastructure that makes it easier to do everything? And we were always looking at ways to drive more attention to what we were doing. We started running LinkedIn Live events, and we found, because we went with a company and we were trying to book meetings with them, and they would book us about 6 in 6 months. And then we launched a webinar and we got 100 signups, or sorry, 300 signups, and 100 of those were relevant. And these companies were C-level execs, £100 million organizations. And I thought, wow, we got all this attention in, and it was so easy compared to what we had been doing on the phones. And the person that was on the phone, they were amazing. So it wasn't for lack of trying or lack of volume. And this is something as you can imagine, I've been building up to this moment. This is 2023, and we've gotten to this point where things aren't just putting more volume out there isn't working, but there's this asset that's been created and it's helping us out to attract the attention. So rather than having to fight for attention, we're getting people to just easily sign up. And that's when I started to click with marketing, because that was something that when I listened to Gary Vee and he always talked about posting content, I didn't really understand at the time, or I felt that it wasn't always the best advice for every business out there, because if you're not good with content, it's a long-term game, and that's if you're good at it. So if you're not good at it, then it's going to take you a long time to find out that you're not good at it, and in that time you're going to go bankrupt. So for the small business that needs to, generate revenue now, it's probably best that you do pick up the phone and start calling, in my opinion. But I think there's a happy medium, which is that if you can give value and provide value to as many people as possible, that means that most of the time, if you're speaking to someone, even if you're picking up the phone, you speak to 10 decision makers, you book one meetings. That's kind of like the general statistic out there. But how about if you're able to provide value to more than just that one person? Because essentially what that's saying is that the nine other people are just not in the market to buy right now, which is fair. But what about if we're not getting them to buy? And that's the premise of what are the things that we can offer them front end that will help them for us to stay top of mind. So when they are ready, we are there and we're top of mind, but also that we have something to share of value immediately, irrelevant of where you are in your buyer journey. And that's where this Maslow's hierarchy kicked in, and we started realizing, oh, we launched groups and it got attention. We started running interviews and it got attention consistently every single time. And then we ran webinars and it got signups every single time. So unlike if you run a meeting booking campaign, even with the most complex clay automation table, you're not always going to hit the spot, especially if you don't know exactly what are the words, right phrases, right pain points that your customer is experiencing, and knowing who to target. So there's layers of complexity out there. So how do you instead work backwards and look at how do I just grab the attention of the majority that I reach out to who are relevant, and then how do I because if they're in my if I get yeses from them, because that's the first goal of any type of reach out that any direct response guru will tell you is like get a response. Then these were for us performing and getting us tons and tons of responses. Where the problem lies, right, is that if you're doing this and that's all you're doing, it becomes very fluffy. And this is the problem that sales and marketing are always at odds with. So sales will go, marketing aren't generating any meetings. And that's what they'll say. And I used to be this person. And I was like, well, we're and closing business. We're just like, I'm picking up the phone and speaking to people. And I used to work in events. And when I used to work in events, I used to sell exhibition stands and not even know why people were buying the stand space at the time. Forgive me, I was very young. I was 20 when I first got into that space. But I just didn't understand why people just didn't pick up the phone like I was and just speak to people and do it that way. Much like with marketing, I was like, you guys, what are you doing? Because nothing's coming my way from it. This was a very naive vantage point because I'd only done sales at this point. And even starting my business, I'd only understood sales. So for me to get business in, it was going to exhibitions, it was cold calling, and it was doing direct LinkedIn and email outreach, but asking for meetings. But then that started to stop working because there was a lot of noise. And marketing are doing all of this stuff, but they're not hearing back from sales about like it's lack of communication. So marketing are like, we're not even getting feedback. They are not nurturing the leads. And this is the battle that sales and marketing have. And they're at odds because they don't necessarily understand each other's roles and they've got different mindsets. There's very few people who have both. And you learn it over time, right? So it took me a journey of 8 years of working with companies, understanding Oh, okay, I can understand why marketing works because we're getting tons more attention and that opens the door. However, if sales don't understand what to do beyond this, it becomes a fluffy exercise. I've heard of sales teams, sales-led companies get rid of their whole marketing departments because they didn't feel there was any value being generated from the marketing department. This as well was further helped me like give it an analogy with Airbnb's CEO, and he called this what was this? It's called it's like the chandelier, and he said that there's lasers and chandeliers. So your marketing is your brand awareness, and this is your chandelier, right? These are the things that you're giving back and investing into the community to just get their raise their awareness and understand what you're doing. So grab their attention because otherwise they're not going to pay attention. You lasers are for the people that you're specifically targeting that are ready to buy now. They're showing signs of buying. So that may be that they've just entered a new role and they're looking to shift things around. Yeah, funding, acquisition, mergers, all of those signal behaviors that everyone talks about, which is relevant, by the way. You want to be doing both. Also, this is called kind of like hunting and farming. Sorry, farming and hunting. So if you're doing all the farming, um, you're not getting you might do so much farming that you just run out of bankroll to do more farming because it takes a long time to build a brand. And with lasers, you wouldn't use a laser to light up a room. So a lot of people right now are running laser campaigns to a broad target market and not really getting any results because they're having to hit so much volume and hope that the right people see the message at the right time. And I think that there's a better way. I think there's a way to combine both, which is that you use chandeliers to light up the room. You get people here into these kinds of spaces and it gives them a great experience. They remember who you are. But if your sales team do not follow up with this stuff and they don't do what they do best, which is hunt, then it will fall apart. And if these two are not communicating with each other, then it will also fall apart. So a lot of people they'll do this, but they won't create what I like to call like a conversion mechanism or um, even just a landing page. But something basically you need here a qualification. So if you're driving insane amounts of people to your group or to your webinar, hundreds, because hundreds will reply, but they're just being answered with here's the link, here's the link, here's the link. You miss an opportunity to ask questions here. And the reason why asking questions is so important is because if you ask questions, you can determine whether they're ready to buy now or not. So, are they ready to buy? So if you make it so attractive, this stuff, and you're working in saturated markets or places where it's very hard to find the target audience that you need to be in front of, being able to attract people en masse and then qualify them to understand where they are, then feeds the sales team with relevant information because then they've got leads that are sharing how much revenue they make, what their challenges are, what stage of growth they're in, and any other useful insights that you may determine may be relevant for organization. And that's the purpose of building these communities and actually investing in these communities because then you get more leads in that you can qualify that your sales team can go at. It also means that if you have this qualification mechanism in place, that your sales team don't need to aggressively hunt because they'll be fed leads and meetings. Case in point, I created a landing page, had them join, and the group, we had 50 members join. And off the back of that, I was able to book 5 meetings. And that was really good as a conversion rate, right? Another company that we worked with, they had 400 members join their group and they booked 37 meetings off the back of that. And 15 were really qualified, added deals to their pipeline and pilots and so forth. But the idea here is that there's a system that you need to develop over time and market motions that require time to build out and they require time to work, right? And there's iteration phases, but it's really important that both hands speak together and work in unison. And this is why I think a lot of companies end up running with agencies. The agencies are building traction or they're not. because they don't have assets or offers to share front end that actually attract the attention of the audience. And then on the other side, if they do that, they don't have the conversion mechanisms or the hunting skill set to convert those leads into opportunities. And that's what leads to lackluster results. That's what stops companies from moving outside of referrals, outside of that singular channel partnership that keeps their whole company afloat and keeps them up at night. It stops them from getting to a place where their business grows and they have the impact that they want to achieve. So that's why we've kind of been over the last years and years just developing this methodology and this system. And that's what we're always working on. And this is just something I just wanted to share because for me, I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably going through the same experiences I went through when realizing that why am I sending all these emails out and they're not working? And there's no one cure answer. I'm not here to say, there's just one answer to everything. But I do feel that I've got a few insights to share just based on being in the space for so long and from working with over 270 companies. So it's just like I've seen patterns emerge about what's successful, what works well, what doesn't. And that's what I'm here to share today. So this is what I've seen right now working well, is also building relationship depth, which I think is a point that a lot of people miss out on when it comes to running campaigns. What I mean by that, and again, this comes from experience, is we've booked in a lot of meetings and a lot of companies, it's not like that's their problem. Like the meetings have been booked and then you've solved it. Actually, it's the quality of those meetings. How well does that client know or prospect know you? How much trust have you built up? I'll tell you this, that there's certain companies and founders and businesses that are much more better to be just hosting roundtables to get in front of the right people than trying to do one-on-one sales calls because they don't have the sales muscle. Just case in point, and they'd be better off just sharing their knowledge and their experience in front of a room that they orchestrate and they can connect like-minded individuals together. Because you know what will happen over a year? Someone will go, this guy's awesome, this guy knows his stuff, and you would have built trust, which is a major factor in a decision-making process, and it will lead to the sell, rather than where sales teams come in and they have to identify need and build trust instantly and keep on top of that and understand that. And if you don't have that muscle, if you haven't been like myself 18 years doing this, and even still, it's like, would I rather a person that comes in that already knows who I am, that already understands my business, that has watched a webinar, that has seen my interviews, all of this stuff is obviously something that you would never say no to. So the idea is build both, is do both, is actually look at how you can target people broadly, light up rooms with your target audience to grab the attention and qualify the ones that are right, and target the companies that are the ones that are the perfect fit, the ones that are going to move your business forward, and hunt them out, grab a meeting with them, and make it lucrative for them to be a part of it and join. And depending on your mixture of your business and your unique personality and strengths and what that entails for you, one of these is going to potentially work better for your business and your style in general. There's loads of companies out there that have done both. So that's my run. That's my 2 cents, and I think I'm looking forward to doing more of these videos because I'm this is week 3 and I'm staying consistent with it. This is not to be frowned at. It's one of many. Who knows what the future holds? So I'll leave it there. Peace out.